What's up, y'all? This is none other than the Guigo and Nico show, starring me and no one else. Again. I don't even have Timber here. He's not even here. Alright, guys. Okay, so what you're gonna notice about this episode, it's gonna sound a little weird. Why? Because I'm quote drunk unquote. Now I'm not. The reason it's in quotes is because I'm not. I haven't actually been drinking, but maybe you guys know what I'm talking about. It's when you're lacking sleep. It's getting late in the night when you need to sleep again. And you just had a great carb-laden meal. And your brain just starts unfocusing. You know, kind of like when you're in the doctor's office, not the doctors, the eye doctor's office, optometrists, and you start to look and it starts to look weird. Yeah. So I'm going to try my best to keep on track here. All right. So Nico's not here again. Because God knows why. You guys deserve an explanation, though I have no idea if you're ever going to get one. So, without further ado, let's get back to what the fuck I was saying last time, mates. So last time, I can't really do an Australian accent. It's like half Australian, half Texas. It's like a Texas person went over to Australia for a year. This is what they talk like, mate. Anyway, last time, the last thing I left off with was a very egotistical statement about other people's egos. Isn't that a blessing? Yeah, so what did I say? I said something of a nature of... This fucking chair. Not that. I said something around the idea... Oh, I would have kept so many more of my friends if they didn't have an ego. Okay. Obviously, that sounds weird, right? Most of you guys didn't comment because no one comments. But if you did comment, what you would say is like, wow, how could you say something like that? Well, don't you have the big ego there? And here's the thing. I do have an enormous ego. And so does Nico. And so do you. But... that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the stuff that is deemed that you can't do, that people judge you for doing, that is not too bad. There is maybe I can look it up. There is a principle that basically says, don't attribute to malice what can be explained through yada yada. I'm going to look it up. And basically, this is the thing I'm talking about in terms of not having an ego. You can have... There's a lot of stuff that people say, oh, this is a sign that they're a bad friend or bad person or something. It just goes over my head. You know, my reflexes are just not that fast. It just goes right over my head. Why? Because I'm not thinking of them being bad. And what brought this to question was the idea of how one person, let's say somebody says something, and the other person responds immediately to that with their own anecdote similar to what the first person was said. And then there's this feeling in the air that's like, oh, you're trying to one-up me? But I see it happen so often that I can't think that everybody's trying to one-up. Maybe I'm being naive. Maybe I'm being naive and everybody secretly has, a personality disorder. But it doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like everyone is trying to one-up. It's more like, oh, your story reminded me of something that happened to me. This is how I connect. Basically, people are doing that anyway. You tell somebody any fucking thing, they're going to be in their minds connecting dots, right? Empathy, people have this weird idea of empathy being like a magic trick, like some spiritual inner thing. It's not. And it can often be fucked up because it's just a special form of imagination. It's obviously more complex than that. But essentially, there isn't something really in the air going on. It's what's going on in your brain. And what was I going to say? It's like, yeah, so if somebody tells you about an experience they went through, you're thinking, okay, let me put myself in their shoes. So what does that mean? What does it mean to be in someone else's shoes? Especially if they're smaller than your shoes or they're not your style. And then in this scenario, what you're doing is actually telling the other person exactly how you're connecting those dots. Now, the whole thing is like, oh, you think you're one up me? Or it's like, oh, you think because you went through pain, it's like, holy shit. So many hoops to go through just to have this conversation, just to have you talk to me, for me to talk to you. What am I? A fucking journal for you? Are you my journal and I'm your journal and this is going, now fuck that. And that's why I don't have friends. Because I can't do that. I can't do it so well. I can't think that much. But it's a give and take. There are things I've done that I look back and it's like, oh man, I was an asshole for doing that. But then there's things that I see people do to me and I do to them. And it doesn't seem like an asshole thing to do. It seems just what people do, and it's not attributed to malice. Or there's a certain sense that we really go against people's egos. We hate the idea that somebody has an ego. Why is that? Do we have this built-in idea that, well, it is a cognitive dissonance, or not cognitive bias, where if someone else is winning, you think you're losing. And if somebody else is losing, you think you're winning. This controls everything that has to do with what I'm talking about. And and it's just not real. It's not that real. Unless it's a specific way that somebody's winning that makes you lose, or it's a specific way that you lose and makes them, unless it's specific and it actually is technically the case, it's not the case. So, but we think it is, and we base that on our ego. So somebody you feel the idea that you're seeing his ego. Oh my God. Or her ego. I say his because I'm a guy, right? And most guys, they write, if you read their writing, it's going to say he. If you read a woman's writing, it's going to say she. Now, are they sexist? Are they just not gender conforming, blah, blah, blah? No. It's just how people's minds work. And it's the same with females as it is with males. And it has a lot to do with empathy and putting yourself in somebody's shoes. You can put yourself in another gender's shoes, but often you're going to connect with people. People are lazy. People's brains are lazy. I said before the thing about women and girls, like saying girls. Girls is easier to say. It's girl. Or it goes from the back of your throat, or not the back, but like the middle. right? And it's going forward. Girls, right? Woman, you have to bring it in and up. So it's not one fluid motion, and it's two syllables. So woman and girl. So, so people aren't thinking too hard when they're doing things. Their brain's just going, what is easy? And it's easier to say girls than it is to say woman, even though they don't mean it at all. It's easier to... There are some negative effects of this. It's easier to trust somebody of one's own race. Even it's a cognitive bias to that, but it's easier on all races, you know? Let's not just think, oh, white. In all races, it's easier to empathize and trust your own race. There's also it ties in with the cognitive. I have been studying cognitive biases. The cognitive bias of the race face effect, I think it's called. Basically, you're more likely to recognize somebody of your own race than another race of another race. But it's not just white people. All races. Oh, people's brains. You know, guys, we suck. And I'm no different. My only difference is being able to see it and question it. But even then, it's kind of like learning anger management tools. It's amazing up until the point that you're angry. Then it's like, I wish I knew how to turn the anger off before I ran his head into a pole. But I didn't stop it. And that's the same thing. You know, I can talk all day about being critical of other people's biases, but I also have biases too. I follow these same biases. It's not like I haven't been in the situation. So, going back to what I was saying with the ego aspect. Yeah. So you think somebody's going to lose. No. So you think somebody's losing and that means you're winning, or you think somebody's winning and that means you're losing. And it's not the case, but we think it is. And that's why we don't let people's egos shine. And that's why it's always better to not actually... What is that? Your greatest fear is not that you're inadequate. Your greatest fear is that you're something beyond your means or something. You guys know what it is. And I bet you guys think that was Nelson Mandela because you saw Coach Carter. But guess what? It wasn't Nelson Mandela who said it. It wasn't even Abraham Lincoln. How I'm connecting those two? Guess what? I don't know. But it was some lady. I don't know her name. She wrote a book, and it was in that book. I'm not gonna go on Google right now to look it up. I'm gonna give you guys some homework. I hated homework so much. I fucking hate. I would rather go to school for a longer time in the day if I didn't go home with homework. You know why homework sucks? It's the same reason why some people, even if they have a remote job, they're not going to work at home. They're going to go work at like a shared office space. Because the idea of having work in the place where you stop working, where you do something else than work, is fucking terrible. It's like your bedroom should have nothing else in it because you're that privileged that you live in a big enough house that you can have one little space for your bedroom and everything else everywhere else. You know? You're not living in a studio apartment. Fuck that. Anyway, you shouldn't have anything in your bedroom that causes you that doesn't go into sleep. So don't bring your phone in there. Don't have a TV in there. Don't even have, I don't fucking know, exercise bike in there, because then you associate the room with sleep. But in the same manner, I went off on a tangent. I'm giving you guys homework because That's how much seething pain I have. So much seething pain that I spread pain to other people who don't even deserve it because I'm so angry. So do your homework. Look up who that is.